The digital dollar is the end of your freedom. The Federal Reserve has announced its full intention to introduce the digital dollar. Most other developed countries have the same intention, and their programs to introduce the digital currency, otherwise known as central bank digital currency or CBDC, are well advanced. The EU, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and China, as well as others, are well advanced in their plans. These plans were decided upon in 2015 when the G20 agreed to end all cash. Why is this important to you, and why does it spell the end of your freedom? Well, firstly, a digital currency, which is centrally controlled, removes all privacy from your financial world. It means that the government will have a clear view of every single financial transaction you make from the day you were born to the day you die. Secondly, because it's centrally controlled, the government will be able to block any kind of transaction that they deem unfit, unsuitable, or they decide is illegal. Thirdly, they will be able to shut you off from all your money at any time that they choose. Now you may be thinking, why is this important? Why do I have to worry about this? If I don't do anything wrong, why have I got anything to fear? Well, consider this before you drop into any complacency you have. Every freedom that you have, every privilege you have, every right you have, was never given to you by those in power. These freedoms were fought by your forebears. People died to give you these freedoms, and you now take them for granted. So let's just look at a few of them. Let's look at just paid holidays. They were fought for by the collective action, the union action, and by strikes, and all the hardships that came with that. Corporate bosses did not give you paid vacation time out of the goodness of their hearts. Governments did not enshrine them into law easily. They were forced into making these concessions by the collective action of workers. And the same is also true for things like the minimum wage, collective wage bargaining, healthcare, a 40-hour working week, union membership, the right to vote, the right to worship, and many, many of the freedoms that you currently enjoy and take for granted. So how does the digital dollar affect all these rights? Because governments can control your cash with the digital dollar, they eventually control you. Any activism or protest can have their finances shut down if the government decides it does not like that protest. Now you might say, well, they wouldn't do that, but you'd be wrong. It's already happening now. In Canada, the truckers' leaders had their bank accounts closed by the government. The Canadian government, that paragon of liberal freedom, set out to starve the leadership of the truckers' protests into submission by denying them access to their money. In China, where CBDC and app-based financial transactions are at a much more advanced level than in the West, they have shut down the spending of activists. They've denied the ability to travel by activists by blocking purchases and train tickets and plane tickets. This is all happening right now. Without protest, without activism, democracy simply collapses. Without protest, governments have complete carte blanche to do as they please, to enact or rescind any legislation that's on the books and anything that's in the interest of their corporate donors. If CBDC has existed 200 years ago, your life today would be very different from what it is. Today you would only get religious holidays from work. You'd be working 12 hours a day or more. You'd probably be working 6 days a week. You'd probably be living on less than a living wage. You'd have no job security whatsoever. You'd have no rights. You'd have no vote. That's the life of someone 250 years ago. All the power over life existed in the hands of corporate landowning bosses and the government. That was how life was for 99.9% of the people. It isn't today because of the ability to protest and remove your labour or strike in order to negotiate for a better deal. In the world of CBDC, this ability will become a forgotten tool of freedom. It'll be left behind. And don't underestimate how the elite of the world will use this power. The 1% have shown they have an unquenchable thirst to accumulate the wealth of the world. And in a world of labour oversupply, they will use this power to drive away your freedoms and your bargaining power with it. your financial independence will be gone. The people of the world have seen only a few hundred years of freedom and prosperity throughout history. But the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, and the American Revolution were all bloody moments in history where the poor and the oppressed stood up and said, "No more," to the ruling classes. The freedom you enjoy today was paid for by their struggle and their lives. CBDC may allow the elites to turn the clock back to those medieval days where they controlled everything and everyone. They will have the ability to literally starve out any attempts at collective bargaining, negotiation, or protest against their wishes. If they have their way, the 1% will not only just own 60% of the world's assets as they do today, but they will go after the remaining 40% that you have. What can you do about it? Well, it's easy. Just don't sign up for the digital euro, the digital dollar, the digital pound, or any CBDC currency. Do not download the app that they give you, no matter what they say. Do not participate in their scheme. Without you, they have no power, so don't participate. And then encourage your family and your friends to do the same. Share this message with everyone you know. This might be our last chance at resisting the control of the 1%. So stop sleepwalking into a nightmare world. Wake up and act.